Rex Kane cursed as the Comet Hopper's external lights fluttered again, casting unreliable illumination across the massive Xylarian cruiser's twisted hull. His salvage suit's magnetic boots clamped noisily against the ancient warship's metallic skin as he made his way toward a promising breach in the command section. "Gizmo, stop messing with the lights and run another scan for security systems," Rex growled into his helmet comm. "I'm getting close to the NAV center, and those old Xylarian booby traps don't care that this ship's been dead for 2 centuries. I calculate a 98.3% probability that all defense systems have been rendered inoperative due to power loss," the ship's AI assistant replied with its typical precise tone. "However, I continue to detect a faint energy signature approximately 30 meters from your current position, inconsistent with known Xylarian weapon systems. Perhaps worth investigating before proceeding to the NAV center? It might be valuable salvage." Rex paused, considering. The Zargo's graveyard was infamous for good reason. A sprawling debris field of derelict warships left over from conflicts nobody alive even remembered. The perfect place to scavenge rare tech if you knew what you were doing. Also the perfect place to end up dead if you didn't. "Define faint energy signature," Rex said, changing direction. "Is it stable? Fluctuating but persistent. Pattern suggests an emergency power cell operating well below optimal capacity. Possibly a stasis system or emergency beacon." Rex's interest peaked. Functioning stasis tech from this era could fetch a small fortune on the right market. Worth a detour. 20 minutes of careful navigation through twisted corridors brought him to a sealed chamber. The door's control panel flickered weakly, the source of Gizmo's energy reading. "This doesn't make sense," Rex muttered. "Everything else has been dead for centuries. Why would this still have power?" Xylarian emergency protocols prioritized life support systems, Gizmo offered. If someone was inside when the ship was abandoned, Rex brushed frost from a small observation port and shone his light through. Inside was a single stasis pod, its control panel emitting the faint pulse of light that had drawn him here. Through the frosted glass of the pod, he could make out a humanoid figure. "There's someone inside," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "A survivor? After all this time?" "Technically, not a survivor yet," Gizmo corrected. "Current power levels indicate complete failure within 36 hours. The occupant will expire when the stasis field collapses." Rex stared at the pod, mentally calculating risks and potential profit. Rescuing someone meant complications, questions from authorities, possible legal entanglements. Walking away meant leaving someone to die, even in the lawless fringes of space that sat poorly with him. "Damn it," he muttered. "Gizmo, run a full scan on that pod's occupant. Species, condition, anything you can tell me before I make a spectacularly poor business decision." The AI paused, processing. Subject appears to be female, humanoid, but with unusual energy patterns within cellular structure. Unfamiliar species. Wait. Cross-referencing historical databases. Possible match, Signian. Signian? Rex's eyebrows shot up. Aren't they extinct? Historical records indicate the species was believed eradicated during the Great Purification approximately 3 centuries ago. This would represent an extremely significant discovery, or an extremely profitable one, Rex murmured, already imagining the bidding war that would erupt over a living specimen of a legendary species. Then he caught himself. No, focus on getting her out alive, then worry about what comes next. He examined the door. "Can you override the lock?" "Negative. Power levels insufficient for electronic bypass." Rex sighed, unclipping the plasma cutter from his tool belt. "Hard way it is." It took nearly an hour of careful cutting to create an opening without damaging the pod itself. Rex squeezed through, his suit scraping against the jagged metal edges. Inside, the chamber was eerily pristine compared to the rest of the ship, preserved by the sealed environment. The stasis pod lay in the center, its control panel barely functioning. Up close, he could see the occupant clearly through the frost-covered glass. A woman with delicate features and silvery skin that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. Strange, subtle patterns of energy pulse just beneath her skin, faint but unmistakable. Gizmo, talk me through this, Rex said, studying the unfamiliar controls. How do I open it without killing her? The system appears to be a standard Xylorine medical stasis field, modified to accommodate Cygnian physiology, Gizmo replied. Primary power has failed. The pod is operating on emergency reserves. Recommend gradual deactivation sequence to prevent shock to the occupant's system. Following Gizmo's instructions, Rex carefully manipulated the controls. The pod emitted a series of soft tones as the stasis field began to dissipate. The lid unsealed with a hiss of escaping gas, raising slowly on ancient hydraulics. The woman's eyes fluttered open, startlingly bright against her silvery skin, with irises that shifted color like an aurora. She gasped, drawing her first conscious breath in centuries, then spoke in a melodic language Rex couldn't understand. Gizmo, translation, ancient dialect of Common Galactic. Approximately. Where am I? Who broke my chains? Tell her I'm Rex Kane, salvage operator. I found her in a dying stasis pod and got her out. Ask if she can understand modern Common. Gizmo relayed the message. The woman listened, then responded in halting, accented but understandable Common. I'm Alara. House of... No translation. Thank you for freeing me from my prison. She tried to sit up, but faltered, weak from extended stasis. Rex helped steady her. Easy. You've been in there a long time. How long? She asked, her voice gaining strength. Rex hesitated, glancing at Gizmo's external speaker. The AI understood the unspoken question. Approximately 300 stellar cycles since the Great Purification, Gizmo said gently. Alara's face showed shock, then profound grief. Then it is as we feared. My people, we should continue this conversation on my ship, Rex interrupted, uncomfortable with the emotional display. This wreck isn't stable, and we're burning oxygen. Can you walk? She nodded, determination replacing grief. I will manage. The journey back to the airlock was slow, with Rex supporting Alara's unsteady steps. She marveled at the destruction around them, occasionally murmuring what sounded like prayers or lamentations in her native tongue. Once aboard the Comet Hopper, Rex helped Alara to the small medical bay, where Gizmo could run more comprehensive scans. Your physiology is fascinating, the AI observed. Your cellular structure contains energy patterns unlike anything in my database. Is this common among Cygnians? All my people manipulate energy to some degree, Alara explained, sitting more comfortably on the examination table. Royal bloodlines like mine possess stronger abilities. She turned to Rex. You saved me from certain death. The life support systems were failing. I was trapped, chained by failing technology. Rex shrugged, already calculating the fastest route to the nearest space station. Right place, right time. Look, I'll get you to Omega Transfer Station. Authorities there can help you. Figure things out. That would be appreciated, Alara said carefully, studying him. But you should know that by freeing me from death's chains, you have created a life bond under Cygnian law. What now? Rex frowned. It is our most sacred custom. One who saves a Cygnian from certain death becomes bound in honor until the debt is repaid or formally dissolved. This is especially true for royal bloodlines. Rex shook his head. No offense to your customs, but I don't do bonds. I'm just getting you somewhere safe, then we're square. Before Alara could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Gizmo's voice took on an urgent tone. Incoming vessel detected. Configuration matches Black Vulture Guild Slave Hunter class. They appear to have locked onto our position. Damn it! Rex bolted for the cockpit, Alara following unsteadily behind. They must have detected the stasis pod when we activated it. Through the viewport, a sleek, predatory ship approached, its black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The Black Vultures were notorious slavers who specialized in capturing rare species for wealthy collectors or illegal research facilities. They're charging weapons, Gizmo reported. Hold on. Rex dropped into the pilot's seat, hands flying across the controls. The Comet Hopper's engines roared to life, pushing them away from the derelict Xylarian cruiser and deeper into the debris field. The Vulture ship fired, the shot narrowly missing as Rex executed a tight turn around a massive chunk of hull plating. The aging Comet Hopper shuddered under the strain. "They're faster and better armed," Gizmo noted unhelpfully, calculating survival probability at 27%. "Never tell me the odds," Rex growled, weaving through the debris with practiced skill. The Vulture ship followed, but its larger size made it less maneuverable in the dense field. Suddenly, Elara gasped. Rex glanced back to see her eyes glowing with that same aurora effect, the energy patterns beneath her skin brightening visibly. She extended a hand toward their pursuer, her face contorted with effort. A pulse of energy, invisible but somehow tangible, emanated from her. On the scanner, the Vulture ship's weapons systems flickered momentarily. Their targeting system just experienced an unexplained power. "Surge," Gizmo reported, sounding genuinely surprised. "They've lost lock." Rex didn't waste the opportunity. He pushed the engines to maximum, diving the Comet Hopper into a dense cluster of wreckage where the larger ship couldn't follow, then executed a series of rapid course changes to throw off pursuit. When they finally emerged into clearer space 20 minutes later, the Vulture ship was nowhere on their scanners. Rex turned to stare at Elara, who had collapsed into the co-pilot's seat, looking exhausted. "What exactly was that?" he demanded. She met his gaze steadily. "A glimpse of why my people were feared, and why we were hunted to extinction." Rex studied her for a long moment, reevaluating everything. Finally, he sighed, settling back into his seat. "So, about that Omega transfer station. I'm thinking maybe we need a plan B." The bustling chaos of Omega Transfer Station contrasted sharply with the serene presence of Elara. 3 days had passed since the rescue, giving her time to recover her strength and adapt to the shock of awakening centuries after her time. Now she walked beside Rex through the crowded main concourse, drawing curious stares with her silvery skin and flowing movements. "I remain concerned about your plan," she said quietly. "The authorities here may not be sympathetic to my situation." "They don't need to be sympathetic," Rex replied, scanning the crowd for trouble. "They just need to take you off my hands. No offense, but I got salvage runs scheduled, and babysitting isn't in my business model." "You misunderstand the seriousness of the life bond," Elara insisted. "My rescue from the chains of certain death has created an obligation that—" "Look," Rex interrupted, stopping to face her. "I appreciate that you've got cultural, whatever, but where I come from, we don't do magical life debts. I saved you because it was the right thing to do, not to sign up for some mysterious obligation." Gizmo's voice emerged from the communicator on Rex's wrist. "Rex, I believe Elara is attempting to convey information about a custom that has significant meaning to her species. Anthropological records suggest Cygnian social structures were highly formalized and—" "Not helping, Gizmo," Rex cut in. "Find me the nearest administrative office where we can report a rescued stasis survivor." "Processing request," the AI replied, then fell silent. Alara's expression showed both frustration and concern. "You are making a mistake. The life bond is not merely cultural. It is woven into the very energy that sustains us. I cannot simply—" She stopped mid-sentence, her head turning sharply toward the station's main docking bay. A peculiar expression crossed her face, recognition, wonder, and apprehension all mixed together. "What?" Rex asked, instantly alert. "Vultures?" "No," she whispered. "My people. Here." Rex followed her gaze in time to see a commotion near the docking bay entrance. Station security officers were gathered around a group of new arrivals, beings with the same silvery skin as Elara, dressed in elegant garments that seemed to capture and redirect light. Their vessels, visible through the transparent docking bay walls, were sleek and graceful, with subtle luminescence playing across their hulls. The crowd parted in awe and confusion as the Cygnians moved through the concourse with dignified purpose, led by an elderly female whose silver skin had taken on a platinum hue. Energy patterns beneath her skin were more pronounced than Alara's, pulsing with steady authority. Matriarch Lyra, Alara breathed. My mother's sister. But how? The Cygnian delegation approached directly, drawing to a halt before Rex and Alara. The elderly matriarch studied Rex with penetrating eyes that shifted between deep violet and electric blue. So, she said in flawless modern common, you are the Earthman who freed our princess from her chains. She turned to Alara with a formal bow. Princess Alara, last of the royal bloodline, we rejoice in your return. Alara returned the gesture, visibly overwhelmed. Matriarch Lyra, I believed our people lost. How have you survived all this time? We have dwelled in the shadows of a quantum nebula, hidden from those who would destroy us, Lyra explained. A small enclave, barely 60 souls, preserving our ways and waiting for a sign. When you awoke, the energy signature of royal blood called to us across the void. Rex cleared his throat uncomfortably. This is great. Family reunion. Very touching. But since you're here to take her home, I'll just be on my way. Lyra's penetrating gaze fixed on him again. You misunderstand, Earthman. You cannot simply walk away from a life bond. So I've been told, Rex said with growing irritation. Look, I respect your customs, but it is not a matter of respect, Lyra interrupted, her tone hardening. By saving Alara from certain death, from the chains of her failing stasis pod, you have bound yourself. Not only to her, but to all who share her bloodline. Our law is clear. You must take responsibility for the safety of our entire lineage until Alara is secure or until she formally dissolves the bond. Rex stared in disbelief. You can't be serious. I assure you, I am entirely serious. Lyra's energy patterns intensified. You freed her from chains, Earthman, but my kin say you must take us all, or face the consequences of breaking the covenant. Consequences? Rex asked warily. In ancient times, those who broke a life bond were hunted by Cygnian guardians until the debt was paid in blood. In modern times, well, an energy challenge would be issued. Few non-Cygnians survive such challenges. The station's public address system suddenly crackled to life. Attention all vessels and personnel. Reports of Black Vulture guild activity in nearby sectors. All rare species representatives are advised to exercise caution. Security has been increased in all sectors. The announcement only heightened the tension. Alara looked distressed, caught between loyalties. Rex's face darkened with anger and frustration. This is insane, he muttered. Gizmo, calculate our fuel reserves and supplies if we had to take on. He glanced at the Cygnian delegation, counting. 12 additional passengers. Current fuel and life support supplies would be inadequate for such a burden. Gizmo responded promptly. Additionally, passenger capacity of the Comet Hopper is limited to 8 humanoids in emergency conditions. The full Cygnian contingent numbers 58 individuals across 7 vessels. Lyra observed the exchange calmly. We do not expect to crowd your vessel, Earthman. Our own ships are capable. We require only your protection and guidance until we reach safe haven. The life bond demands no less. Rex paced in tight circles, mind racing through options, each worse than the last. Finally, he stopped, fixing Lyra with a hard stare. Fine, temporarily, until we figure something else out. But I want it understood that I'm doing this under protest. A subtle smile crossed Lyra's face. Noted, the Covenant recognizes intent but binds through action, regardless. Rex turned to Alara. I hope you appreciate what I'm getting into for you. More than you know, she replied softly. And I'm sorry for the burden, though not for the bond itself. You will understand in time. Don't count on it, Rex muttered, already mentally rewriting his carefully planned salvage route. Gizmo, plot us a course away from known shipping lanes. If we're traveling with an extinct royal alien princess and her entourage, I'd rather not advertise. An eminently logical decision, the AI agreed. Calculating optimal routes now. The Cygnian vessels moved with surprising grace for their size, maintaining perfect formation around the Comet Hopper as they navigated the asteroid field. Rex watched them on his scanner with grudging admiration. At least they can fly, he remarked to Gizmo. That's something. Their navigation systems appear highly sophisticated, the AI agreed. They maintain formation with only 0.03% deviation despite variable conditions. I calculate their technology originates from approximately. Spare me the history lesson, Rex interrupted. Just keep an eye out for pursuit. The vultures aren't going to give up easily, not with a haul like this at stake. 3 days into their journey, the cultural differences between Rex and his unwanted charges had become abundantly clear. The Cygnians maintained meticulous shipboard rituals that Rex found baffling and inefficient. They required specific energy arrangements in their quarters. They spoke in formal, often circuitous ways that tested his patience. And their dietary requirements were a constant headache. I fail to understand why you refuse to observe the pre-meal energy alignment. One Cygnian elder complained during a joint meal aboard Rex's ship. It takes only moments and harmonizes the digestive process. Because I'm hungry and I like my food while it's hot, Rex retorted, biting into a protein bar. Alara, who had taken to acting as cultural interpreter, intervened smoothly. In Earth culture, efficiency is often prioritized over ceremony. Rex means no disrespect. He simply follows his own customs. The elder sniffed disapprovingly, but let the matter drop. Later, as Rex and Alara walked the ship's small observation deck, she attempted to bridge the gap. My people's ways must seem strange to you, she acknowledged. We developed our rituals over millennia to help control and channel our energy manipulation abilities. Without structure, our powers can become unpredictable, like what you did to that vulture ship. Rex asked. She nodded. A minor manifestation. In ancient times, Cygnians could disable entire fleets or power cities with their abilities. But such power came at a cost. Sometimes control was lost with catastrophic results. She gazed out at the stars. The Great Purification wasn't entirely about external enemies. Some of it was our own doing. Rex studied her profile, seeing genuine regret and wisdom beyond her apparent age. That's why you were all put into stasis? To prevent some kind of energy disaster. Partly, she confirmed. The royal bloodlines carried the strongest abilities and the greatest risks. I was sealed away both for protection and containment, though I didn't fully understand that at the time. Their conversation was interrupted by Gizmo's urgent alert. Multiple vessels detected entering sensor range. Configuration suggests Black Vulture Guild, including a stealth-class hunter vessel designated Nebula Phantom. Rex cursed. They found us. How? We've been avoiding all major routes. Unknown, Gizmo replied. However, the Nebula Phantom is known to possess advanced tracking technology. Alert the Cygnian vessels, Rex ordered, already heading for the cockpit. Tell them to prepare for evasive maneuvers. The cosmic dust cloud loomed ahead, a vast, swirling mass of particles that played havoc with sensors and navigation systems. Under normal circumstances, Rex would have given it a wide berth. Now, he saw it as their best chance. All vessels, follow my exact course, he transmitted to the Cygnian ships. Stay tight on my tail and match velocity precisely. This is going to get rough. The Comet Hopper plunged into the dust cloud, the Cygnian vessels following in perfect formation. Visibility dropped to near zero as particles scraped against their hulls with a constant hissing sound. Pursuing vessels have entered the cloud, Gizmo reported. 6 identified signals. They have deployed pulse sensors attempting to compensate for visibility loss. Let's give them something to chase, Rex said grimly. He executed a series of tight maneuvers, using his superior knowledge of dust cloud dynamics to maintain control while laying false sensor trails. The Cygnian vessels matched his moves with surprising precision. Impressive flying, Rex admitted. Didn't expect royal refugees to handle their ships like that. Cygnian nobility were traditionally trained as pilots, Alara explained from the co-pilot seat. Space flight has been in our culture for millennia. A proximity alarm blared as a shot from one of the Vulture ships narrowly missed them. They've got a partial lock, Rex warned. Gizmo, deploy countermeasures. Countermeasures ineffective in current conditions, the AI responded. Dust density interfering with deployment systems. Another shot came closer, rocking the ship. 3 vulture vessels had managed to close the distance, their superior weaponry giving them a dangerous advantage. "We need something else," Rex muttered. Alara exchanged glances with matriarch Lyra, who had joined them in the cockpit. An unspoken communication passed between them. "We can help," Alara said, "but you must coordinate all vessels." "What do you need?" "Position our ships in a helix formation. We will create an energy disruption field." Rex hesitated only briefly before transmitting new coordinates to the Cygnian fleet. The vessels smoothly rearranged themselves into a spiral pattern with a comet hopper at the center. Aboard each Cygnian ship, the crew began channeling their energy abilities in concert. Alara and Lyra, representing the royal bloodline, focused the combined effort. The energy patterns beneath their skin brightened until they glowed like stars, their eyes blazing with aurora light. A wave of energy rippled outward from their formation, invisible except for the way it made the dust particles dance and swirl. When it reached the pursuing vulture ships, their systems flickered and failed. Weapons went offline, engines sputtered, and navigation systems showed nothing but static. Rex seized the moment. "All ships, maximum thrust on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark." Their formation shot forward, leaving the temporarily disabled vulture ships behind. By the time the slavers recovered, Rex had led them through the densest part of the cloud and out into open space, quickly plotting a jump to a new vector. Hours later, with immediate danger behind them, Rex called a meeting aboard the Comet Hopper. The Cygnian leadership gathered in the small conference room, a stark contrast to their elegant surroundings on their own vessels. "That was too close," Rex began without preamble. "And it proves we can't just keep running. The Phantom can track us somehow, and eventually, they'll bring enough firepower to overwhelm us." "What do you propose?" Lyra asked. "We need a destination. Somewhere defensible where you can settle permanently." He turned to Alara. "Any ideas from your ancient history? Some secret Cygnian hideaway that might still exist?" Alara hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's a place mentioned in our oldest texts, the Stellar Nursery Nebula. It was considered sacred to our people, possibly our original homeworld or a final sanctuary prepared before the Great Purification. Its location was kept secret, passed down only through the royal bloodline. Do you know where it is?" "Not precisely," she admitted, "but I carry fragments of star charts in my memory, part of the royal education. With your navigation systems, perhaps we could piece together its location." "It's better than nothing," Rex agreed. "Let's start there." The search for the Stellar Nursery, Nebula, took them through increasingly unfamiliar territory. They navigated unstable wormhole junctions, skirted the edges of temporal anomalies, and deciphered ancient stellar landmarks that appeared in Alara's fragmented knowledge, but on no modern chart. During this time, a subtle shift occurred in the relationship between Rex and Alara. Their initial wariness gave way to grudging respect, then genuine admiration. Rex found himself impressed by her intelligence and grace under pressure, her ability to bridge the gap between his pragmatic worldview and her people's formal traditions. For her part, Alara came to value Rex's resourcefulness and hidden compassion, the way he grumbled about their presence, but never hesitated to put himself at risk for their safety. "Your people aren't what I expected," Rex admitted one evening as they worked together on translating ancient Cygnian navigational glyphs. "All that formal ritual stuff hides a pretty practical mindset, and your gruff exterior hides a more complex soul than you admit," she replied with a smile. "We are both products of our cultures, yet more than they made us." Gizmo, monitoring their vital signs as always, chimed in unhelpfully. "I note that your proximity to Alara correlates with a 12% increase in your heart rate, Rex. Similar physiological responses occur during..." "Mute," Rex commanded hastily, earning an amused glance from Alara. Lyra observed their growing connection with thoughtful interest. After one particularly successful navigation through a dangerous stellar phenomenon, guided by Rex's instincts and Alara's knowledge, the matriarch approached him privately. "You begin to understand the life bond," she said. "Not a question, but an observation. I understand taking responsibility for people I've agreed to help," Rex countered, uncomfortable with the implication. Lyra's knowing smile only deepened his discomfort. "The energy between two beings never lies, Earthman. Even those without Signian perception can feel its pull." Before Rex could formulate a suitable denial, Gizmo interrupted. "Anomalous stellar formation detected at coordinates matching Alara's latest translation. Composition suggests the theoretical parameters of the stellar nursery nebula." Grateful for the diversion, Rex hurried to the cockpit, where Alara was already studying the sensor readings with intense focus. "This is it," she whispered, eyes bright with emotion. "The energy signature matches the ancestral descriptions perfectly." On the view screen, a massive nebula took form, a swirling cascade of stellar gases and newborn stars, wrapped in layers of energy that bent light around its edges, creating a natural camouflage effect. No wonder it hadn't appeared on standard charts. Unless you knew exactly what to look for, sensors would slide right past it. "How do we get in?" Rex asked, studying the complex energy patterns surrounding the nebula. "The royal bloodline carries the key," Alara explained. "An energy signature that should correspond to specific frequencies in the nebula's outer barrier." With Alara's guidance, they navigated to a specific point in the nebula's perimeter. There, she and Lyra combined their abilities, generating a precisely modulated energy pulse. The barrier before them shimmered, then parted like a curtain, revealing a passage just large enough for their vessels to enter single file. Inside, the nebula's true nature revealed itself. Not merely a stellar phenomenon, but a carefully engineered sanctuary. Multiple small planets orbited a stable young star, their surfaces pristine and untouched. Ancient structures of Signian design floated in precise orbital positions, some clearly habitable, others appearing to serve as defensive or monitoring installations. "It's beautiful," Alara said softly, exactly as the legends described. They docked at what appeared to be a central command structure, a massive space station of distinctly Signian architecture, dormant but intact. As the small party explored its interior, automated systems began to activate, responding to the presence of royal bloodline energy signatures. In the station's core, they discovered a vast archive, a repository of Signian knowledge, history, and technology preserved for whoever might find this sanctuary. "This will take years to fully explore," Lyra said, wonder in her voice as she surveyed the countless data crystals and artifacts. Alara approached a central console that glowed in response to her presence. Placing her hand upon it, she closed her eyes as information flowed directly into her consciousness, a capability unique to her bloodline. When she opened her eyes again, they shimmered with unshed tears and new understanding. "Now I know the full truth," she said gravely. "Why our civilization fell. Why I was placed in stasis. The terrible potential within our gifts." She explained what the archive had revealed. The Signian ability to manipulate energy had grown too powerful in the royal bloodlines. As their capabilities evolved, they began to affect not just local phenomena, but cosmic forces themselves. The Great Purification had indeed been partly an attack by fearful neighboring species, but it was also a consequence of catastrophic energy events caused by Signians themselves, particularly those of royal blood whose powers had grown beyond control. The stasis program wasn't just protection, Alara concluded. It was containment. I carry within me the potential for both creation and unimaginable destruction. That's why I was sealed away with specific awakening protocols that were never meant to be triggered by accident. The somber mood was broken by Gizmo's alert. Breach detected in the nebula's outer barrier. Multiple vessels entering. Configuration matches Black Vulture Guild fleet, led by the Nebula Phantom. Rex cursed. "They've tracked us again. But how did they penetrate the barrier?" They must have analyzed the energy signature we used, Lyra realized. The Phantom's stealth capabilities would allow it to observe without detection. They're inside and heading directly for the station, Gizmo confirmed. Arrival in 27 minutes. A tense council of war followed. The Cygnians were divided. Some, led by Lyra, advocated for defending their newly found sanctuary at all costs. Others feared that unleashing their full energy abilities would risk the very catastrophes that had doomed their civilization before. We should flee deeper into the nebula, one elder argued. There must be other hiding places, and abandon this repository of our heritage? Never, countered another. As the debate intensified, Rex studied the station's systems, which Gizmo had managed to partially interface with. There's another option, he said finally. This station has ancient defense systems, dormant but potentially functional. And these stellar formations, he pointed to the sensor display, have unusual energy properties. If we could use them strategically, he outlined a daring plan, using the Cygnians' energy manipulation abilities in controlled, coordinated bursts rather than all-out attacks. Reactivating the ancient defensive systems with Gizmo's help. Utilizing the unique properties of a nebula itself to create navigational hazards for the attackers. Not a direct confrontation, Rex explained, but a trap. We lure them in, separate their formation, then pick them off one by one. The plan was approved. As the Vulture fleet approached, the trap was set. The Cygnian vessels positioned themselves at strategic points throughout the nebula. Rex, aboard the Comet Hopper with Alara and Gizmo, would coordinate the entire operation. All units in position, Gizmo reported as the first Vulture ships entered visual range. Ancient defense systems at 63% functionality and rising. Begin Phase 1, Rex ordered. The battle unfolded like an elaborate dance. The Cygnian vessels appeared to flee in disarray, leading the eager Vultures into prepared ambush points. When the slavers gave chase, they found themselves suddenly confronted with localized energy distortions that disabled weapons and scrambled sensors. Ancient defensive platforms, reactivated by Gizmo's precise calculations, emerged from dormancy to unleash targeted electromagnetic pulses that further disrupted the Vulture ships. One by one, the smaller vessels were neutralized or forced to retreat. But the Nebula Phantom itself, commanded by a veteran slaver captain, proved more resilient. It adapted quickly to their tactics, its advanced systems compensating for the nebula's unusual properties. The Phantom is breaking through our outer defenses, Gizmo warned. It appears to be targeting this station directly. Rex made a split-second decision. Gizmo, transfer control of the station's defense grid to the Comet Hopper. I'm going to intercept the Phantom myself. Rex, that's too dangerous, Alara protested. The Phantom's weaponry outclasses your ship significantly. I know its blind spots better than anyone, Rex countered, already moving toward the docking bay. And I don't intend to outgun it. Just keep it distracted while you complete the final phase. Before Alara could argue further, he added softly, Trust me, I've gotten pretty invested in making sure you all survive this. Their eyes met briefly, volumes of unspoken feeling passing between them. Then he was gone, racing for his ship. The Comet Hopper detached from the station and accelerated toward the approaching Phantom. Rex opened a direct channel to the slaver vessel. Attention, Nebula Phantom. This is Rex Kane. I know you're after the Cygnians. Let's talk price. There was a pause, then a harsh voice responded. Kane, you've led us on quite a chase. What's your angle now? Simple business, Rex replied, his voice casual while his hands worked furiously at the controls, positioning his ship for what would come next. These Cygnians are worth a fortune to the right buyer. I'm thinking we could partner instead of shooting at each other. The Phantom's captain laughed coldly. You expect me to believe you'd sell out your precious cargo after all this effort? Your reputation says otherwise, Kane. Reputations change when enough credits are involved, Rex said. Besides, I never asked to be saddled with their life bond nonsense. Meet me halfway and we'll discuss terms. It was a transparent ploy, but it accomplished what Rex needed. The Phantom altered course slightly to intercept the Comet Hopper, moving away from its direct approach to the station. Meanwhile, aboard the station, Elara and Lyra gathered the most powerful energy manipulators among their people. Arranged in a precise geometric pattern, they began channeling their abilities in perfect synchronization, guided by the ancient knowledge Elara had absorbed from the archives. The key is control, she reminded them. Not maximum power, but perfect harmony. Focus on the nebula itself, not on destruction. Their combined energies reached out, not toward the enemy ships directly, but into the very fabric of the nebula surrounding them. Gradually, the stellar gases and energy fields began to respond, currents shifting, forming new patterns. Aboard the Phantom, alarms blared. Energy distortions forming throughout the sector, a crew member reported. Navigation is becoming compromised. The captain's eyes narrowed with suspicion. It's a trap. All weapons. Target Kane's ship now. The Phantom's superior weapons locked onto the Comet Hopper, which suddenly seemed terribly small and vulnerable against the sleek hunter vessel. Evasive maneuvers. Rex ordered Gizmo, throwing the ship into a tight spiral. Energy beams sliced through space where they had been moments before. Structural integrity at 82%, Gizmo reported after a glancing hit. We cannot sustain direct fire from their main batteries. We don't need to, Rex replied grimly. Just keep them focused on us a little longer. On the station, the Cygnian energy working reached its culmination. The nebula's natural energy patterns, now enhanced and directed by their combined abilities, formed a localized space-time distortion. Not destructive enough to cause cosmic damage, but perfectly calibrated to affect ships in the vicinity. Elara, at the center of the formation, channeled the royal bloodline's power with unprecedented precision. The knowledge from the archives had shown her not just the dangers of her abilities, but the path to true mastery, control rather than raw power. Now, she commanded. The distortion expanded rapidly, engulfing both the Comet Hopper and the Phantom. For Rex, it manifested as a strange visual effect, space seeming to fold around his ship, sensors showing impossible readings. But Gizmo, prepared by Alara's instructions, compensated automatically, keeping their systems functioning. The Phantom was not so fortunate. Its advanced systems, designed to dominate normal space combat, experienced cascading failures as reality itself seemed to warp around them. Weapons offline, engines stuttering, the massive ship began to drift helplessly. "What have you done?" The captain's voice came through, distorted by interference. "Given you a chance to leave with your lives?" Rex replied. "The effect is temporary. When it dissipates, you'll have engine power again. Use it to leave the nebula the way you came, or the next distortion won't be so gentle." There was no response, but sensor readings showed the Phantom's remaining operational systems were powering down to prevent further damage, a clear sign of surrender. The other Vulture ships, seeing their flagship neutralized, began retreating toward the nebula's entrance. The battle was over. When Rex returned to the station, he found the Cygnians in a state of cautious celebration. The immediate danger had passed, and they had found both a sanctuary and a new understanding of their own abilities. Elara greeted him with luminous eyes. "You risked everything for us." "Well, I am bound by that life bond thing, apparently," he replied with a half-smile. "Bad for business, but I'm starting to see some perks." Lyra approached, her expression solemn despite the victory. "You have more than fulfilled any obligation the life bond created, Earthman. By our most ancient laws, Elara may now formally release you from it, if she chooses." All eyes turned to Elara, who stood silent for a long moment, the energy patterns beneath her skin shifting in complex emotions. "The bond was formed when you freed me from the chains of certain death," she said finally. "And now you have done far more, given my entire people a future." She stepped forward, taking Rex's hands in hers. "By the power of my bloodline, I declare your obligation fulfilled." A subtle energy passed between them, and Rex felt something change, not a severing, but a transformation. The unwanted burden he had resented now dissolved, leaving behind something else entirely. "So, I'm free to go?" he asked, studying her face. "Yes," she said simply. "You may return to your salvage runs, your solitary life among the stars." Rex looked around the ancient station, at the pristine planets visible through the viewport, at the faces of the Signians who had become something more than unwanted passengers, at Gizmo, who had adapted to their strange requirements with surprising enthusiasm, at Alara, whose presence had somehow filled an emptiness he hadn't acknowledged. "You know," he said slowly, "this place is going to need a lot of work to get fully operational again. Ancient systems need maintenance. Supply lines would have to be established carefully to keep this location secret. Someone with experience navigating the fringes of civilized space would be useful." Alara's expression brightened. "Are you offering your services, Captain Kane?" "I'm considering a career change," he replied. "Salvage is a lonely business, and it turns out I might not be as much of a lone wolf as I thought." "An accurate self-assessment," Gizmo chimed in. "Your physiological indicators have shown marked improvement since abandoning your previous isolationist tendencies." "Nobody asked you," Rex muttered, but without rancor. Lyra observed the exchange with that same knowing smile she had worn when commenting on the energy between them. "The Stellar Nursery would welcome a guide with your unique perspective, Rex Kane, particularly one who has proven his worth so thoroughly." "Then it's settled," Alara said, her eyes reflecting the light of newborn stars. No longer bound by obligation, but by choice. Rex found himself smiling, a genuine expression that felt unfamiliar on his face. From chains to choices. Not a bad journey, all things considered. Around them, the ancient station hummed with renewed life, systems awakening after centuries of dormancy. Outside, the nebula's swirling energies created a protective cocoon for the planets within, worlds untouched, waiting to be explored. And within the station, a people reborn began planning their future, no longer refugees, but pioneers. Gizmo, ever practical, was already calculating resource requirements and optimal settlement patterns. "I project a 97.6% probability of successful long-term habitation, given current parameters." As the others dispersed to continue exploration and planning, Rex and Alara stood alone by the viewport, watching the dance of cosmic energies that had brought them together across centuries and light years. "You know," Rex said quietly, "when I found that stasis pod, I was just looking for valuable tech to sell. Never imagined I'd end up finding all this." "The universe has strange currents," Alara replied, the energy patterns beneath her skin glowing softly as her hand found his. "Sometimes they carry us exactly where we need to be, even when it seems like the most improbable destination." Rex had never been one for cosmic philosophy, but standing there, watching new stars being born while an ancient civilization began its renaissance, he found it difficult to argue with her logic. "I guess sometimes," he admitted, "the most valuable salvage is the one you didn't know you were looking for." Outside, the nebula continued its eternal cycle of creation, stars forming from cosmic dust, new worlds taking shape in their orbit. Inside, a Signian princess and an Earthman salvager stood together, freed from old chains and bound only by the choices they had made. Choices that had somehow, against all odds, led them both home.